Jackie Goodale. It's December 19th, 2007. I'm here with Lily Muller. Lily, you were in the Holocaust, correct? You were part of the Holocaust?
Yes, I am, unfortunately.
Why don't you tell me about where your hometown?
Well, I was born in Naval, in the second biggest city, which was an industrial city. And I was there till I was 16 years old. Actually, I was 16 and having a normal, wonderful life with my parents and my two brothers. And I was going to a private school, which I loved because the teachers were very close to this, to the pupils. And I was doing well in school, and I enjoyed the school. We knew a lot of what was going on because my parents had a bookstore, and having a bookstore, they got a lot of information from other things. And I myself saw a book printed in Germany which showed photographs of people who were in camps. And some of them were German themselves who didn't like their worldview. Actually, Mr. Hitler decided to put them there to probably make them a little more to his liking. So we knew that Europe is heading to a war, and we Jews will be very vulnerable. And in the meantime, we have in our bookstore windows with all possible books printed against Hitler. And when time was near for them to come to watch, we had to take all those books, bring them to the house, and still in warm weather, burn those books. And only then, because, you know, we had a good time, except that my parents, during the First World War, had a very bad time. There was hunger, they were unsafe. So I knew what's going to be. Not exactly, because if we knew, maybe we would have gone to the United States, where we have family. But I remember this book episode because in history we ourselves read about things which happened to previously, the people who were not going along with the regime. And we certainly did not. The 1st of September 1939, the German came into my town. A lot of Volksdeutsch, people who were in Poland for many, many years, but they were still German-oriented, lined the streets because they were greeting very, very happily the German population, the German soldiers. And our town changed completely because you could not be in the street. The Jews who were in a special garb were called in and to dance in front of the German, who had a lot of fun and photographed it. And the schools were closed completely. My uncle, who was a part of the government, of the city government, had to hide in my aunt's apartment. And it was just an awful awful times. Our store was closed and we lost it. We didn't own it anymore. And we didn't know how to deal with it, especially that my father and my brother went to Warsaw because they thought that Warsaw will be spared. But there was such a shooting on the streets to Warsaw, and there was no food, that he came home, and we were relieved very much that he's home. This was going on for a long time, and we found out that this particular city will be incorporated in the Reich, and the family decided to contact some people with whom my father had business in Warsaw, and asked them if we could arrive there and could they help us to find some lodging. And pretty soon part of the family went there, but my father didn't want to make my mother sleep in one room like they put a few families, because everybody was coming to Warsaw. So she was supposed to stay and wait for an opportunity to come a little later. It was very difficult there too, although we were not so scared, because in our town they already were talking about making a ghetto and closing it, whereas in Warsaw it took a few years till that happened. But of course I worked out of sorts because I had no school, and I decided to open like a little kindergarten for the children of other women who were working, and the children were home. So we didn't have to, the children didn't have to come from another big house. So we can do it, we did it there. And I think that it was a good thing to do. But slowly I started to work, and things changed. My father opened a little library there, which I took care of. And he found ways also to make some money so we can have some food to eat. People, it was hard. People lived in one room. There was no food. You could buy food on the black market. Little boys used to bring the food from out of the city, Warsaw city, and where the war was surrounding there, the little boys used to put out the bricks and put the food there and somehow get money for it. But many of them died because they were the first to German anger when they saw that somebody's doing it. They killed. They didn't care about killing people. That was just thing that nobody really, they treated people when they would be things.
How old were you when you were brought to the camps?
Oh, I was actually, I was in a camp in Warsaw. I was about 18. And this camp was very, very bad. But that was a little later. I had to work at sewing because I happened to know how to sew. My mother was teaching me this when I was young. And food, I don't even remember what food we ate, but we didn't have much. And the second thing was that even though we were promised that if we work there, we are not going to be sent out from Warsaw, we did. There was we found a few times that they were coming in and pursuing you and pushing you to go to another city, which we found the next day that was a lie, because they sent people to the Umschlag. Umschlag was the place from where they were sending people to build all the camps. But Warsaw Ghetto was famous from hunger and from a terrible sickness. A lot of people were sick of with typhus, and a lot of people were just simply dying from hunger, and they were sitting, a lot of children especially, around the street, and the next day you didn't see them anymore. So you knew that in the morning a little wagon picked up all those people and took them to the cemetery. So the people who still have money could maybe eventually save themselves, but generally it was very bad.
Were you in more than one camp?
I was in this camp, which was called I will tell you later. And then I was in a Polish camp, and this was later when everybody had to get out of Warsaw. That was in 1943 when they decided to do everything. But before even this happened, I worked for the Jewish underground because I was promised that I'm going to get from my friend false papers. There were papers who they brought in from the Russian side, and you couldn't verify if this person is alive or dead. So they took this old dead people's and you know, make us those papers so they can fit to the other people, and you could then go out of this of Warsaw and be out of the ghetto. If you have, they call it a good face, that means blue-eyed and light and speaking well, people survived on those papers. And at one time where things were bad, I decided, I spoke to my parents, we were in this camp together, and I tried it, and first time when I tried it, it didn't work out, but the second time they paid money and I left this place. And I was scared because, you know, our faces were very sad, and it was very hard to always remember that you are very happy. And just being there, you know, and looking the way you look. But I found work there, and I was there till the time of the Polish uprising, where everybody had to leave Warsaw because the German army didn't want anybody in the back of their defenses. So they felt better if everybody goes out and 2,000 people left completely. But the Germans sent us to Germany because they needed people to work for their factories. So unfortunately they sent me to Berlin, where I was over a year, and Berlin was bombed twice a day, once by the German, by the Russian, and no, by the English, and once by the American. And we had to go to a shelter, so we don't show any signs to the planes or lights. And every night we suffered through all this. It was really very hard. And eventually our factory was bombed and there was no more work for us. So we really were afraid because we had to be sent to the Eastern Front where the Germans were. Germans were fighting against Russia. And this was very bad for us because, first of all, we were already depleted and weren't fed very well because that was a very bad camp also, only for not for the Jews. So we knew they're not going to kill us, but it was very dangerous. And, I remember that we asked a German who had a sister whose older son and husband died already. It was toward the end of the... And she spoke with her boss, who was manufacturing caskets for the military. So we went there, and lucky for us, he took us to work. And that's where we were liberated, because the Germans were going toward Berlin and stopped in this little town.
What was the hardest struggle for you when you were in the camps?
Well, it was hard because we didn't have food. There was garbage. Really, vegetables were already disintegrating. We cut ourselves, and cabbage, we cut ourselves. We have to do it after work. And I was afraid also of the Poles who were also in that camp, because you know, people started to be friendly, and some of them didn't like the Jews. So I wasn't happy there. Of course, I didn't look for being happy, just to survive. But I didn't have much problem. I would say this was bad. Otherwise, we can go down to Berlin, and at the end, we couldn't even recognize any streets. And I had also a friend with whom I stayed together. And although 2 Jews were worse than 1 Jew, I reached a point that I was so sick of being lonely, and with that, you know, with my address and my name, which was not really true, and any day I could, you know, somebody could say, "Oh, hello." So I would say that this is the worst thing.
What were some of the conditions in your bunks where you slept?
We were very lucky. There was a room of 30 people, where there are all kinds of people. And there were a room for 3 people, no, 6 people. And we were lucky to go into this little room, we didn't have that much contact. And we also knew a little German, which was sometimes helpful. So I would say it was very cold, yes. Where we washed ourselves, there was only cold water, and there were actually those icicles hanging from the ceiling. But, you know, you learn how to adjust to it. That was something we can live with, because then when we went to our big factory, there was some, they had showers for the men. So we used to go there very quickly and shower and almost wet, dress and go out. So we had a shower once in a while. And listen, this was no Auschwitz, but this 6 years of this terrible hunger and fear, I think that took its toll for us.
Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I had 2 brothers, and my brother went back to my town because my mother never had an opportunity to come, to smuggle herself to Warsaw. I still think that maybe if we would be together, we could do something in Warsaw. But it was, you know, there also, the Germans had a way of killing the Jews. First, they started with little things like took away all your coats, took away all the radios, took away, you didn't have anything really that reminded you that you are a human being. I was lucky because I was, when I was in the underground, I had to bring buttons for the radio, for the short radio. And because of that, I knew what was going on. But otherwise, you know, people didn't know. And that was a big, because I knew when the ghetto, soon they'll give you the time, when they planning to burn it, and I went out just in time.
Did your parents and siblings survive during the Holocaust?
Nobody survived from my family. We were 5 people, and we had grandparents on both sides, and nobody survived. Not my 2 friends, or maybe more, from my school survived, but family, no.
What kept you going during the Holocaust to keep pushing through and wanting to survive?
I think that the fact that I was young, I wanted to live, and besides this, I wanted somebody to survive, to tell the truth about what happened. Because if Hitler would have won, there would be no humanity, there would be no civilization. And I knew that in my bones that people have to prove that there is still humanity.
After you were liberated, did you move back to Poland?
No. I was with a friend of mine who was a little older, and she says, you know, if we go, we don't know whether we're going to come back. And with the Russian, who is going to do what you want? You know, we heard before what was going on. And so she was right. She says, we can always go back if we want to. And we can always register and look for our families. And it was true. Most people did it. And they allow you to stay with the people with whom you survive. And in this place, there was a lot of people from Belgium and Holland. So we stayed with them, with the men. We said we are fiancés. So they sent us to Brussels, and it was very lucky that we were there because, you know, there was already international aid. Somebody saw us on the street, also I have no number, and she saw from this, the way we looked, she says, oh, those are Jewish people, and she took us to a place where there are volunteers, doctors who need people who needed, and they were sick, and all kinds of problems. And they gave us, how you call it, registered us with the city that we can get coupons for food. And they helped us to find people came and also were lacking their families, so they gave rooms for a family. Because in the beginning, they too suffered, you know, the Jewish people. And there was an international committee which started to take names and ask, where do you want to go? And took me 5 years only to come to the United States. Can you believe this? They were afraid because I worked in the consulate at that time. So they were afraid that I am, because the Polish regime was under the Russian, but I needed.
What year did you go to America?
In 1950.
Have you ever gone back to Poland?
Yes.
How many times?
I went twice because my father had a house there, and I wanted to take the title of it. And I wanted to go to my room, to our apartment, and my heart was beating. And I went up there, and I rang the bell, and the woman asked me what I want, and I said, you know, this house, this apartment looks exactly like the one when we left. Our piano was there, the map, the furniture, the pictures on the wall, everything. And I said, may I have one little picture? And she says, no, it's not yours.
And that's been really hard.
Those people thought that they are entitled. It's, of course it's and my friend who was a pianist, my cousin, he went up to his apartment. I remember we used to go to the neighbor there because she had a Christmas tree, and she asked us to see how pretty it is and gave us a candy. So he went there after the war. He survived, and they didn't want to give him this piano. Yeah. So some people took advantage. But the biggest loss was the family. You know, I was still young when I left. I was 16 when I didn't see my mother anymore. And then gradually I lost everything. And it was still young because we, you know, I don't know how to say whether we were less independent from the parents, but the families were very tight in Europe, you know. And maybe I sometimes hear you see Italian families or who are very close to each other. And that was characteristic of the of European.
How did you meet your husband?
I met him in Belgium. He came there from camp, and I would have never met him otherwise, because he was under the Russian, and later on, because this part was all east, so it touches on the Russian, and now it's Ukrainian. You know, in Europe, there were every country after a few years changed their borders because of the wars. There were wars very, very often, and they did this like a Shah on his, you know, plays. How do you call the game where you jump figures?
Checkers?
No, chess.
Chess.
Chess, yes. And that's how it really was.
When you came to America, were you living with anybody? Did you have somebody, like,
I was with
waiting
my
for you?
friend, yes. And we found ourselves work, and then I worked somewhere else. And then I found this work in the consulate. It was so hard for me because I had to speak German and French and Polish, because it was a Polish consulate. But I didn't know French. I knew German and Polish. So I really raced to get to this language. I should be able to speak with the French people, but in the meantime it was very, very hard on me. But I learned the French fast, and then I started to learn English. So because I wanted to come here and know it a little bit.
Before our interview, you said you moved up here a year ago. Where were you living before?
I lived in Long Beach, New York. This is a little island off Big Long Island. And we lived there for 40 years. Beautiful. You could go into New York in 1 hour.
After you got out of the Holocaust, what were some of the jobs you had?
There? Yeah, well, I was working as I was making dresses to order, and I was doing alterations of dresses, because that was easy I didn't have to learn any. This is also a war, tragedy. I didn't have a chance to go to college, and I had to work right away for myself, and I couldn't pay for the college. So I never went to college. And I remember before the war, they planned for me because I know what I wanted for myself, to have a career and be educated. But I made peace with myself about this. But I used to take different courses, small courses, almost every year, a couple, a few, each semester. And I think that I learned from it something, you know, that you could do a lot by yourself, by studying, by reading a lot, by just being interested in it.
I saw that you made up some notes. Is there anything else you wanted to add in?
No, all I can tell you that while I was here, that's many years, I was hoping that there will be peace because I know what war is. And I don't see much hope for it. And listen, I have 85, I don't have much to live. But I was hoping that people would learn something from all this disaster. My children, lucky my son didn't get into the Vietnam War, but we went marching and we were trying. And he's well educated, my daughter is well educated. That were my goals. And now, so nice. I have such wonderful visitors.
I think that's about all I have to ask. Thank you very much.
I thank you. And I admire you too, that you do this job. Maybe somebody will find out that war is really so horrible, and maybe they will do something about it. Some kind of laws, you know.
That'd be really nice. Great, thank you.
Thank you.